Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. We're entering week 17 with Thursday football, but since it's Christmas, we have a special lineup of 3 different games, so I'll go through them one by one. But just before I do, I just want to note that I've updated some of the panels, mainly with defensive information. I want to add some more defensive information to it, so it's not fully complete, but it's almost like the rest of your player panels. So I will show a handful of them at the very end after the outro. So if you'd like to see some of the defensive information at this point, go ahead and stick around till after the outro. But other than that, let's get into our normal data for our games. For our second Christmas Day game, you have Detroit going to Minnesota, where Detroit's favored on the money line with a spread of 7.5 and a total line of 42.5. There's your team's seasonal averages, and I'll quickly walk through the rankings, with Detroit having a pretty good offense with a scoring rank of 2, a passing rank of 3, and a rushing rank of 12. They also have a disproportionate worst rank in the tight end rank at 24 versus this passing rank of 3, since that's more general all passing and this is just tight ends, so they are much worse with their tight ends in general than their passing rank shows. Defensively, they're much worse off with an allowed scoring rank of 23, allowed passing rank of 25, and allowed rushing rank of 16. For Minnesota, you have a pretty bad offense with a scoring rank of 26, a passing rank of 29, and a rushing rank of 25. You have also almost the worst team at utilizing their tight ends at 31. Defensively, it's a little better with an allowed scoring rank of 12, allowed passing rank of 2, and an allowed rushing rank of 24. Moving into our quarterbacks, you have Max Bosmer, because right now J.J. McCarthy is listed as out, and Jared Goff. I do want to make one side tangent on how this is a very annoying aspect, where J.J. McCarthy is listed as out, even though he's still listed as the starter as well. And so then who's the real starter? I mean, it must be Max Bosmer, but why would you not update this list when he's officially listed as out? Anyway, that was a side tangent to everything. Otherwise, for fantasy points, Bosmer averages basically no fantasy points, and Jared Goff averages about 18.6. I'll move over to their seasonal averages, which may not mean a bunch for Bosmer, but he does have a fair few games listed in here, so I'll still move over for his averages. And then for turnovers this season, you have Bosmer with 4 interceptions. For Goff, you have 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles lost due to a sack. For their rushing share, obviously Bosmer does not have enough to even show up on this chart, so we don't really know how he'll impact the rushing game. However, based on his averages here, he gets about 1 carry per game, and averages a loss of 1 rushing yard per game, so that would make sense why he doesn't show up here very well. For Jared Goff, once again, this is still a little messed up just because of the positioning of where this is at, and I don't know if I can fix this or not, but I'll try to see. But I still think this is probably about 6% of the rushing carry share, and probably about 3% of the rushing yard share, and we'll see more of this with the running backs next. And we can confirm those numbers with the running backs next. So moving into the running backs, I'm first going to just show the Detroit running backs since they share so much. And so you have Gibbs and Montgomery, where Gibbs averages about 22.7 fantasy points per game, and Montgomery's at about 10.3. And then moving over for their seasonal averages, with the only turnover as well coming from David Montgomery with 1 rushing fumble. And then looking at their share, we can see obviously their mirrors a little bit of each other, but you get Gibbs at 57% of the rushing carry share and 61.4% of the rushing yard share. For Montgomery, he gets that other slice at 38.6% of the rushing carry share and 36.2% of the rushing yard share. And then as we can see, we can confirm what Jared Goff actually has at 4.4% of the rushing carry share and 2.4% of the rushing yard share. And then looking at Minnesota's running back, you have Aaron Jones, averaging 9.4 fantasy points per game. And moving with his averages, as well as looking at the turnovers, all he has this season is 1 receiving fumble. Looking at his share, he gets 35.3% of the rushing carry share and 34.4% of the rushing yard share, which is a little small for a starter, but that's because he was out for a couple weeks and had to let Jordan Mason take over, who has almost about this 45% of the rushing carry and rushing yard share. For your receivers, you have Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Jefferson averaging 11.7 fantasy points per game, and Amon-Ra averaging just under 19 fantasy points per game. Moving over for their seasonal averages, and with no turnovers, we'll go right to the charts, so go ahead and pause the video if you want to look at any of this information in more detail. But moving in their share otherwise, you have Justin Jefferson with 31.4% of the target share, and 32.7% of the receiving yard share, making him the most productive receiver in Minnesota. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown at about 31% of the target share and 30.4% of the receiving yard share, also making him the most productive receiver in Detroit. For your second receivers, you have Jameson Williams and Jordan Addison, with Williams averaging 13.4 fantasy points per game and Addison at about 10. Here's their seasonal averages. and neither of them have any turnovers this season. So once again, I'll go right to the charts, where you have Williams with 19.6% of the target share and 25.6% of the receiving yard share. And then for Addison, you have 18.8% of the target share and 21.5% of the receiving yard share. For your tight ends, you have Shane Zylstra and Josh Oliver, because you have TJ Hawkinson hurt. So Shane averages about 5 fantasy points per game, and Josh about 4.8. For their seasonal averages, you have Josh Oliver here, and you'll really only have one game for Shane here, so I won't move over to the averages. And then moving over to their share, obviously with Shane, you don't really have anything right now with just one game, so it doesn't get quite enough share to really show anything, especially this far into the season. However, for Josh Oliver, you do have a little bit of data with 3.8% of the target share and 4.4% of the receiving yard share. So that pretty much wraps up all the data here. Just looking at these head-to-head, you have a much better offense on Detroit, and even though they're going against this allowed passing rank of 2, with their passing rank of 3, you still have an allowed rushing rank of 24 against a rushing rank of 12 on Detroit. And defensively, even though Detroit doesn't have the best defensive numbers, every single ranking is better than Minnesota's offensive rankings. So this looks like a really tough game for Minnesota just based on the numbers. And on top of that, you have JJ McCarthy out, as well as TJ Hawkinson, which doesn't look like he made much of an impact anyway, but that's still a couple big people out for Minnesota. So in the end, I do lean with the numbers and with Detroit in this game. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed and got something out of it. And if you did, leave a like and subscribe. And leave a comment on what other data you want to see in the future. But other than that, I'll see you for the next game. So then wrapping up, if anybody's interested in some of the defense, I'll just quickly go through some of the screens. Interesting enough, I actually have a lot of missing data here for Minneapolis. So I'm not sure what that's about. I'll have to go look into this, why there's nobody listed as this. But that's why I might skip these a little bit. Those last few were your left defensive ends, and now this is your left defensive tackle. And once again, I don't have this for Minnesota, so we'll just have to run with this guy. Here's your right defensive tackle. Your right defensive ends. Your weak side linebackers. Your middle linebacker. Interesting to note that he is the most productive tackler on the team, with 25% of all tackles this season. And your strong linebackers. Your left cornerbacks. Here's your strong safeties. Your free safeties. For your right side corners. And then your nickelbacks.